Right. Mark, appreciate that. I think, yeah, just as you were talking, I feel like that time just really resonated with me. I feel like probably like the last 2 or 3 weeks I've been kind of in a space where I just really just been struggling to, I think, delight in walking with the Lord. Um, Struggling to, delight in reading scripture and praying. And recently the Lord just allowed me to start reading Ezekiel. And that's been really like helpful in kind of renovating my heart to really delight in him showing me just different things that the people of Israel were doing, sin struggles, things that they were doing in dark and things like that, that drew them away from God, that turned their back towards God. And what Ezekiel talks about is that the presence and the glory of God left them, and that's why they were able to be overtaken. And so that really was eye-opening to me, where it's like, man, we have to continue to abide. Man, we have so many things going on in our life. Most of you guys are leading a small group, weekly, children going, dealing with children and all this, busyness with that work. So you guys have a lot, on your plate. And so, man, it's so important for us to continue to abide daily, because what does Scripture say? Apart from Him, we can do nothing good. So we can do a lot of things, in our life and, in our day in and day out. But apart from Him, we can do, nothing good. And so I want us to continue to be reminded of that your most important time is when we're spending alone time with God. That's the thing that's going to fill us up. That's the thing that's going to carry us through the day. That's the thing that's going to allow us to sleep peacefully at night, knowing that we were faithful to what God had called us to on that day, right? So with that, I have the opportunity to, walk us through the coaching role. This is something that for many of you have been in the room. You've heard this before. We have a few new faces in the room, and so we want to just make sure that, you have a clear understanding of this coaching role and kind of what the calling is, when we're stepping into this role. And so the coaching role description is actually on page 2. We're not going to walk through it. There's a lot of details in that, but I'm just going to hit some of the highlights and speak to some of these things that will hopefully be helpful to you guys. As I was reading through this, I was like, man, I would love to kind of hit on these different points for you guys, just to give some encouragement and maybe some ideas as you guys are, walking through what it looks like to have these coaching relationships and to engage with small group leaders. And so I think with that, the first thing that, I want, just to share is, man, the role of coaching is this communication part. It's engaging with small group leaders on a pretty frequent basis. Here, it says once a month, and so that's or monthly. And so I think the goal of our coaches here is to build relational capital at the end of the day. Like, we want you as a coach to engage with small group leaders as much as possible. I know that, like I said, most of you guys are leading a small group, and so you have a lot of relationships that you're trying to maintain there. But with these small group leaders that you're coaching, trying to create some relational capital, reaching out to them via text, phone call, grabbing a meal together with them, and their spouse, just allowing them to see that they are seen and loved and cared for, in that way. And so I think really trying to, take time to do that. I think in these conversations, I think a helpful, tip in doing that, something I was thinking about, so kind of my experience in ministry before the summit was in college ministry. and something that was really helpful for me because I was pretty stretched thin in relationships and trying to connect with so many different students on a college campus. One thing that I tend to do was to, set reminders in my phone that, I haven't seen this person in a week, or I would say I met this person, their name is so-and-so, and I need to follow up with them in a week, or I shared the gospel with them, I need to follow up with them in a week. I would literally just set a reminder in my phone. A week from now, reach out to so-and-so, schedule a meeting, to meet with them and talk with them. And so for you guys, as you're engaging with your small group leaders, maybe a helpful thing for you to do is to set a reminder in your phone to reach out to them and just to connect with them. And so it's better to do it in the moment that you're thinking about it, because obviously, like I said, we're so busy that we can easily get carried away with all the things. And so our conversations that we're having, whenever we do have the opportunity to connect with our small group leaders and to engage with them, making an effort to really make it personal and asking about their lives. And so we see in point 1 down here, it says, how are you doing and how can I pray for you? I think that, this is really important. We want to approach them, just caring well for them. I think the whole kind of role as a coach is in some way doing 3 things. You're caring for them, you're creating community for them, and then you're also coaching them. And so this community part is this, I want to pray for you, I want to encourage you, I want to sharpen you as one person to another. And so this praying for someone just allows them to share about their life, what's going on in their marriage, what's going on with their kids, what's going on at work, and being able to write those things down and really pray for them in the moment, but also pray for them, throughout the semester. Someone mentioned this either last coaches meeting or the time before that. But another good thing to probably do, it might be weird, but when someone said it, I was like, man, that's a really good idea. I think asking them for a photo of their family, names and photo of the family, that you can continue to pray for them and their family. Because as they are in this small group leader role, obviously you guys know that they have a lot going on. And Satan wants to continue to target our leaders of our church. And so we as leaders need to continue to saturate, the church with prayer over families, over marriages, over, different things like that. And so, I want to just, encourage you guys, ask them for a picture of their family so you can pray for, their spouses and their family, by name and that. So, yeah, I think encouraging them in their walk with the Lord, spiritual disciplines. And so, the points 1 through 3, these are requirements of reaching out. So coaching communications with small group leaders once a month. So we mentioned that already. Coaches eat a meal with a small group leader at least once a semester. I think in that, when you're trying to grab a meal, maybe invite them and their spouse, just to get to know, them together in that point, but still being able to, having those coaching conversations, and then coaches visiting small group once a year. What do I have here? Yeah, I think with that, the last point is probably the hardest thing out of all 3. They kind of, progress as they go. I think with the last point with visiting, I think the kind of tip that I would give is try to schedule this out, far in advance so that it's on your schedule, it's coming up. Sometimes when it's trying to coordinate within the, next week or 2 or 3, people's schedules can be kind of crazy, things like that. But I think if you can, schedule it out far in advance, it gives a more likely chance that you're able to actually go and visit and be a part of their small group. They know you're coming, that you're going to be there, and they can kind of set the tone for that, as you're going into that. So I think, how are you doing? How can we pray? And these are kind of the requirements in light of connecting with them. How is your small group doing? And so this idea of like really asking them, man, how are they doing spiritually, logistically, group dynamics? Is there anything that that's going on in the group that you need to be aware of? I think with small groups that you're leading, you want to be in tuned kind of with the heartbeat of the small group. Not that you need to know every detail of what's going on, but if there's anything that is good, anything that is, something that needs to be addressed, anything like that, I think that the small group, you as a coach should be at least aware, not that you have to handle anything, but at least aware of kind of those situations that are going on. I have a small group leader who, funny enough, she is not at that point, she was not the small group leader that I coached. But she would find me just like every Sunday and just come and talk to me and just give me a small update on their small group. And I appreciated it just to hear kind of like what God was doing in their lives, what God was doing in their groups, what God was doing in, other people's lives. And so it's a really kind of helpful thing just to know, just the heartbeat, of the group in that. And so some things that, we can, help with is being a resource. And so this is the care part. So we have community, now we have care. And so how can we care well for our small group leaders? As a small group coach, you just want to be a resource of information. And so you're kind of the directory when it comes to, small group leaders. And so something that I want to encourage you guys to do is to continue to be well versed in what is going on in our church, different ministries that we have, different resources that we have, that we can point our small group leaders to if anything occurs. And so something that this just reminded me of, who in here remembers the care pyramid? Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. Who remembers the care pyramid? Does anyone?
Small group leader.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm glad I spent some time thinking about this. Okay, care pyramid. And so this is just kind of how we view how to care well when an issue arises in small group. What are the levels of care that we can provide for our members, right? And so levels of care. So there's 3 levels to it. We have general care, pastoral care, and professional care. So this is the care pyramid. I think something to note about this is, man, as a small group coach, this is something you need to be aware of. And so you fit in this piece. And so, like I said, whenever an issue arises, you are the person in which your small group leader is going to reach out to and say, hey, who do I need to reach out to? Who do I need to connect with when it comes to, this issue? And so general care is this idea of kind of like one anothering. There are kind of issues that are going to arise that are maybe small or temporary issues that you as them as a small group leader should in some way in their small group be able to take care of. And so most of these general cares are probably like 70% small group and small group leaders and like 30% deacons. And so we have a deacon board that takes care of different issues. And if there's something I say that needs to be corrected, please correct me on spot. So general care. And so this is one anothering. You have the small group leaders. And so kind of, with the small group side, that 70%, like I said, these are more like short-term issues that happen, in a small group that, a small group leader can pretty much take take care of. On the deacon side, this might be a more long-term, something that's a long-term issue that needs to be handled. And so your small group leader is going to reach out to you guys and asking, all right, who do I need to get connect to? This is something that kind of taking more energy on a long-term, situation that we need help with. And so some list of like short-term things could be like, someone needs to be visited while they're sick at home. So obviously you and your small group can go and, spend some time with them, make sure they have everything they need. Emergency babysitter, collecting funds for someone. Maybe someone has like an emergency that popped up. They need funds, and so as a small group, maybe you can raise funds together and doing that. And then short-term meal train, being able to take meals over there. Long-term examples could be like hospital visits. So if someone's in the hospital for a while and kind of all of their small group has kind of already rotated through, having a deacon that can come and also check in with them. This also might be a meal train, but more of a long-term term thing. Following up on ongoing issues, and so this following up is really important. Kind of maybe that's what differentiates between small group, general care, and deacon. They can really follow up on kind of what's going on. They have a whole system, all of those things. So that's kind of like the area of general care. You have the small group leader, but also kind of the deacon. Here on this side, you have what bridges general care to pastoral care is you guys, small group coaches. And so you guys are what I call the directory. And so you bridge the gap in which general care starts to kind of arise into pastoral care. So what's my question? When do we escalate issues? If there's an issue that arises in a small group, when do we start to go upward and say, hey, we might need some assistance in this? Anybody? Do we know? When do we think? Levi?
Say if it's a care issue that exceeds the capacity of the small group and elders, so like professional, or it's a sin issue.
Yeah, that's good.
Like where they have resisted confrontation via the small group leader and small group.
That's good. Yeah. So I think just like what Levi said, just the idea of like if it exceeds the capacity of the small group leader and they are in need of help. If a small group leader needs help, then that is when it gets pushed up. And so I'm gonna try to go quickly just for the sake of time. Pastoral care, this is anything deals with a lot of our elders. It deals with elders and staff, but mostly elders. So those are the people who are in this position. A list of things that this could encompass could be, Levi said, unrepentant sin, unresolved strife. This can be anything that can disqualify someone, in the role as a member. So I can give, examples of that. Affairs. It could be, members falling out with one another, leaving the church. And so these are kind of different things that would be kind of in that space. I know most of you guys know Matthew 18, 15 through 17. So that's just the structure that we want to continue to follow. If there's sin in small group and we want, someone in the small group to reach out to them, if they're unrepentant in that, then we want, 2 or 3 to come together. If they're still unrepentant in that, we want, the church to come, which is, our elders to step into that. So that is based off of scripture as we do that. When it goes beyond pastoral care, it's kind of when it gets to things like counseling, G4, medical specialists, social services, things like that. So this is kind of gets beyond kind of our realm as the church and kind of some serious issues. And so that would go obviously, up to professional care. This could be abuse, mental health, addictions. So any of that, is something that would go, in this category. Like I said, as a small group coach, definitely kind of get a general understanding of what this is. And maybe we should create like a resource sheet that is somewhere. I don't. Do we have one like that?
I think we got one somewhere. We'll post it up on the group meet.
Yeah.
I think we try to put resources on the group meet so that you can go and check, find this there. So if it isn't there, we'll put it up there.
Cool. So we'll create a resource sheet of like where to go to, things like that. But this is really helpful to a small group coach. Just have a general sense of how does care happen with small group leaders, because whenever an issue arises, they're going to come to you and ask you what's going on. And obviously we have abundance of wisdom and resources even in this room, which we have group chats and all of that. But I want you guys to become well versed in that area. And so really important. The last section, as far as your role, is this idea of coaching. And so that's the development side. So moving away from caring, we're now in this coaching and developing. And so being able to ask them in these times of connecting and meeting, man, who are you developing? And so this kind of question, man, you're asking them, like, how are they being intentional about observing their groups? How are they being intentional about discipleship? How are they being intentional about multiplying themselves in their spheres of influence? And so with that, Mark has a few links that are really helpful in this discipleship plan. The plan looks like this. I think you have it on the back, right?
Yeah, that's something that's actually part of the study that I've offered you.
Okay, cool. So, yeah, he has links to that, resources to that, Bible study that he's leading. I think incredible information. And so I think with that, something that our church as a whole, how much time do I have left? Like a few minutes? Okay, a little bit over. All right, I'm gonna just say this last and then we'll move on. Something that our church has kind of been aware of is this kind of a sense of needing to get all kind of on the same page as far as ministries and development and discipleship kind of moving forward. And so we've kind of been thinking through, man, what does it look like to kind of align all of our ministries and disciple making. And so kind of what we see across our board right now for our church is that there's kind of this funnel that kind of gets people into being a committed follower of Christ. So you have, the 5 identities, you have people who are trying to get people to commit to coming to church, to giving, to serving, to being in community. And so this is this funnel that gets people to being followers of Christ, but kind of saying like, oh, we don't really have a process of getting people to becoming disciples and disciple makers. And so something that we are processing through and thinking through is this idea of how do we get people to make decisions on what is their next step. And so this growing in discipleship is evaluating where you are right now, where would you like to be, and where is God calling you to, and then how do you get there. And so that's something that as a church, there's going to be kind of a bigger rollout of that. But at the moment, this is something that as coaches, I want us to kind of start using this language of, what's your next step? Where do you see yourself, right now? Where do you desire, or where is God calling you to? And then how can we, as me as your coach, you as a small group leader, how can we take practical steps to helping you grow in whatever that area of your life is? And so with that being said, David Talbert has reached out to me and has asked me, hey, is there a group of leaders that we could gather together to kind of do a soft introduction to, for them to give feedback and criticism on how we can do this best? I was like, yeah, I got a whole bunch of coaches and team leaders who are kind of spearheading our ministry that I feel like this would be really helpful in kind of getting this thing off the ground. And so I want to put this on your radar. There's more information coming down the pipeline as far as doing this kind of introduction to it. But I just want to let you guys know that that is something that I think would be really helpful in our small group ministry, but also in our personal life. Just how are we kind of leading and thinking, for other people in that aspect. So that's something that I will send more information on. And if you're interested in kind of attending this small class seminar thing that's going to help us learn how to ask these next step questions, then I will get a chance for you to sign up for it. Quick announcements. So we have a small group leader celebration coming up on August 16th. So that small group training is going to be in the morning. New small group leader celebration is going to be at the right after that, immediately after that. Really important. Something that we're trying to do this year is to continue to celebrate new small group leaders and kind of the work that the Lord is doing, and them saying yes to stepping up in leadership. So celebrating them, allowing them to meet their coaches and their elders in that space. But something that I want to be true of that time is that they realize that being a small group leader is really strategic. And it's not just saying, hey, I want to lead, but it's very similar to being sent and commissioned as a missionary. And so this idea of commissioning them out is something that we're trying to do. So that's really important. August 16th. Obviously, Group Link is August 26th. Something that we're trying to do in that is that you can sign up to be a connector or a host. Host is what you're used to, coming to Group Link, receiving members. Connector is something new. As you, as a small group leader, you might not need more members, maybe one or two. Maybe you'll sign up as a connector, and what you're doing is connecting attendees to groups in your area. This is helpful in two ways. You get to know other groups in your area and kind of where they're located and information about them, so that in the future, if someone says, hey, I would love to come to your group, oh, we don't have capacity at the moment, here's some other groups in the area that would be good, you can connect them, continue to connect them outside of that. Second way that is helpful is that if you only need one or two, as you're connecting them to these other groups, if there's a attendee that's like, man, you actually would fit in our group, then you can be like, hey, I actually lead a group as well, undercover. So those are my announcements. Thank you guys just for being here.